Hello everyone, welcome to A&D Steam Workshops. Today is episode 3 of the Inktober series. And this time I am drawing a chicken. The prompt was roast, and I was going to do a roasted chicken originally, but I thought it would be funny to do like a cartoon chicken and then put a sign around its neck and get other people to roast it, as in criticize it and sort of make fun of it. I've started it off quite simply, just getting a sphere, bringing it in, and I extruded the head out originally, but I ended up changing this later on, so ignore that bit. But for the wings, I selected like the top half of the sphere and extruded it out using the Alt key, which is something that I hadn't done on my previous videos. It was one of the issues that I was having with the sculpting environment. So I used the Alt key to extrude it out from the original sphere, so it wasn't just modifying that one. And then started working on the feet. I brought out the drumsticky bits, the thighs, and then again used the Alt key to extrude some points out of the end to use as feet. And I wanted these feet to be quite thin, but I couldn't make them too thin, otherwise the chicken wouldn't stand up straight, because eventually I'm hoping to 3D print this. So the feet had to be big enough that it looked like it was going to be able to support its weight, but not so big that it was going to look wrong. I've just really sped up this next bit of footage just to show you how I was trying to do the head, but I ended up not doing it this way in the end. I ended up deleting it, but I started out extruding out, so I had quite a square head, and then bringing the comb, which is the little red flappy bit on the back of the chicken's head. I tried to bring that out. I tried doing some subdivisions, but it just wasn't looking quite right, so I ended up deleting that and starting again with a sphere that I just attach onto the top of it. You might have also noticed at the start of the video that I have changed the channel name to A&D Steam Workshops. I've also got a new intro, which if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you will have seen already. The reason I changed it was that people weren't quite getting what I was all about with the old name, and a few people had spelled it wrong when I'd given them my email address and stuff. So you can see here, when I was doing this head, I was trying to get it to look right, and doing lots of subdivisions to try and get some detail in, and it got kind of close, but it ends up looking a bit robotic, and I wanted it to look cartoony. So you can see I've given up on that, and I end up deleting it, and then just filling in the hole where it was, which leaves me with a bit of a neck that I bring out, and then bring in a new sphere, get it to roughly the right size, and then that's what I'm going to use as the head. So I started modelling it off the body and then move it into place later on. So again, I'm starting on the comb on the back of the chicken's head, just bringing out the full thing and then extruding the centre sections back in to make 3 bits that are coming out of the back of the head, and then I subdivided some of the faces on the front to make the eye sockets, because I wanted them to be really small and beady, because that's kind of what chickens' eyes look like. And then brought the beak out, did a couple of extrudes to try and get it the right length, and then just made it so that it fits with the face and it's not just poking straight out, it follows the curve of the face. And then I struggled to get the dangly bit, I think it's called the waddle bit on the chicken's neck, the little red bit that looks like the comb on the back of the head. I struggled to get that to look right, and I'd messed about with a couple of different ways. I'd added some new edges in and tried bringing it down like that, and it ended up not quite looking right, and I think it's because I'm trying to go for the cartoony look. I ended up just going with quite a simplified shape, because it made it look more cartoonish. Just experimenting at the minute with a couple of different ways of doing it. But I end up settling for just bringing out one face that I use as the waddle. So I bring out that face and then I split it in half so it looked like two little bits dangling down. And then readjusted the whole head to get the scale right before moving it into place onto the neck. And it was just a case of getting all the scaling on the body right and getting everything where I wanted it. Putting a couple of eyes in, just bringing in two spheres. Sorry, I think I just brought in one sphere and then mirrored it. Getting them into the eye socket so that they fit right but that they're touching. So that when I come to print it, it'll print that as one whole thing. And just getting the neck to look right and the back of the chicken to look more natural while still looking cartoonish. And I made the feet quite a bit bigger, just again because of the worry that it's going to topple over when I print it. I just had to make them big enough that they were going to be able to support the weight of the 3D printed model. And then I had a couple of issues where faces were overlapping on the feet, so I had to go back in and just adjust them slightly so that they weren't overlapping. And I actually noticed when I was doing that the feet weren't sitting flat anyway, so it wouldn't have stood up properly. But I fixed all that, finished the sculpt, and then combined all of the different bodies like the head and the back of the chicken, and then started working on the play on words of the roast. So I decided to put a rope around the chicken's neck and then have a sign on the bottom which was going to be green so that people could take it into Photoshop and put their own roasts on about either the chicken itself or about my skills on Fusion 360. And the way that I did the rope was I made a path, just an arch sort of shape for it to flow around, and then created 3 circles that went onto the end of it. And then I used the arch as a path and used the 3 circles as the profile to follow the path, and then I could use the sweep function to sweep them around and twist it so that it looked like a braided piece of rope. And it left me with this strange little disc on the end, but I end up getting rid of that later on because at the minute it's very rigid. So what I need to do is convert it to a sculpting body so that I can sculpt it and curve those edges down so that it falls onto the chicken's front. So you'll see here I'm converting all those tubes so that I can use them as sculpt components and then just twisting it and turning it so that it fits around the chicken. And you'll see that little disc that I was talking about at the end gets left as a body on its own, so I can delete that later on. And because I've converted it and it only converted the tube sections, I ended up having to go into the surface environment and just fill in the holes at the end, which is pretty easy to do on something as simple as that. And then for the sign, I just extruded a rectangle, made sure that the rectangle touched the rope, and then combined all those bodies. I actually ended up splitting some of the bodies so that it meant I could paint just the comb and the waddle and the beak separately. I put in a surface and then split the body at the point where it touches the waddle, so that it meant that I could do that red, and then I did the same with the comb and I did the same with the beak, because otherwise when I tried to make those bits red it made the whole head red. When it came to rendering it, I've just rendered it in really bright plastic colours because when it gets printed they're the colours that it's going to be, and the bright solid colours make it look more cartoonish. And like I said, I've made the sign green because it'll be easier to take into Photoshop or whatever photo editing software people want to use and change it around and put their own little sign around the chicken's neck to say whatever they want it to say. So that's the end of that video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try to get the next episode up in better time than it's been for this one. But thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.